check earlier. Okay, the Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman. Here. Trustee Dipsey.
Present.
Clerk Borba here. Trustee Dorchevitz.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance tonight. How about outgoing Sergeant Stephen Koffel? Steve, you want to lead us in the pledge? Okay, Chief Tidrington, could you come forward, please? We have some...
I guess it's a great time to be a bank robber.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. Because of this pandemic that we're in, we're going to keep it very brief, and hopefully we're going to have a better opportunity to celebrate the career of Sergeant Steve Koffel. So I'd like to ask Steve to come up here at this point. When I just a few weeks ago when Steve told me he was going to retire, I was shocked. And I was thinking, God, he's too young to retire. I'll be able to talk him out of it. And so we started talking, and he explained how much he loved serving this community. He said he enjoyed every minute of working here, and he's worked here for 26 years. But then he explained why he was retiring. He's retiring because he wants to spend more time with his lovely wife, Tara, who's here this evening behind the blue mask. And he has two young daughters that he wants to spend more time with. So it was a very noble reason, and it was hard for me to try to argue with him. But Steve's been a consummate professional. We hired him, not we, I wasn't here, but in 1994, Plymouth Township hired him. He was promoted last year, August of 2019, to sergeant, and almost to the day, he's now retiring after 26 years of wonderful service to the community. It certainly was my honor to serve with him, and I only hope that we can hire somebody to replace Steve. It's going to be difficult, but it's certainly all of the characteristics that we look for in a police officer, Steve certainly displayed throughout his career. Congratulations. Very few words, but again, we wish you luck in the future. Steve and his family live in the community. His parents live in the community. As a matter of fact, just down the street from me. His dad's always out there cutting his lawn. Makes me, it's shameful how nice his lawn works. So, again, congratulations. So, as they say, it's out with the old, in with the new. I'd like to bring Mike Fritz. Mike is, once we have a sergeant retire, then we replace that sergeant with another sergeant, and then we hire for that vacancy. So we're going to be hiring a patrol officer, but we're very fortunate to be able to promote Mike Fritz. Mike recently finished number 1 on the sergeant's test. It was a test that chiefs from other agencies and a professional assessor conducted the interviews, and Mike finished number 1. Mike has a bachelor's degree from Madonna. I don't want to say stole because it's not a right word for us, but he was formerly with the city of Plymouth, and he worked in the city of Plymouth for 1 year. We saw what a great guy he was, and we thankfully were able to recruit Mike. Mike's wife could not be here. She's at home with a new baby and a new puppy. So, but Mike, it's my honor to promote you. As as I said, hopefully we can do this again at a more appropriate venue and someplace we don't have to wear masks. So again,
Mike,
thank you all for
Sergeant, could
coming.
you take your mask off so we all get to see your smiley face?
Oh, it's not the right guy. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
wrong guy.
I thought we promoted. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. And before everybody leaves, we just want to, on behalf of the whole Board of Trustees, we just want to reiterate our support and our admiration for each and every one of you and what you do for our community. These are very difficult times to be in your profession, but we honor and respect everything that you do. We're glad to have you here protecting our community. Thank you very much. And friends and family are always free to stay and listen to our thrilling, action-packed board meeting. They're all leaving.
He's got to cut the lawn.
It's got to cut the lawn. Okay, all righty. Item C is the approval of the agenda for tonight. We're going to remove item F1. That is the presentation by the Senior Alliance. There's been a scheduling issue there, so no harm, no foul. We'll get Jason back at another time. Any questions on item C?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk?
I move for the approval of the amended agenda for Tuesday, September 8th, 2020.
Motion's made. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Heitman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item D, approval of the consent agenda. Comments or questions by the board? Got to turn your mic on.
Yes. I just one quick question, really isn't on this agenda because there's no fire report, but we just wondered if Chief Phillips might very briefly talk about the major fire in the community last week.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Last Friday at about 3:45, we had a fire in a large industrial building. I believe it was Snap Design Concepts was the name of the company. They have large presses in there, metal presses and cutting material, which their building had a lot of cutting fluid, petroleum-based cutting fluid, and other oils inside, as well as propane tanks, acetylene tanks. At the end of the day, their building caught fire. One of their compressors, it appears, malfunctioned, overheated, and caught fire, igniting the building. Fire crews from Plymouth Township, Northville City, Livonia, Westland, Inkster, and Canton all responded. We were able to put out the building, but most of that high heat on that roof made the roof unstable, so that building's kind of condemned for now until they can get some heavy equipment in there, shore up the roof. We did have to go back because we didn't allow anybody inside the building for fear of collapse and injury. Nobody was injured on the fire. We did air monitoring at the time of the fire to see if any of those products were dangerous to the area. It appears they were not. The runoff, there was considerable runoff, was mostly caught, it appears, and by the silt that was stirred up on the General Drive construction and had blocked a lot of it. So the oil and debris that would have normally gone into Tonkers Creek was caught in the area and wasn't allowed to drain until we had a company come out and with oil separators and suck all that up.
Chief, I was told that yesterday and today there were employees in that building.
Yeah, yesterday and today there were people from the insurance company and the investigation company that was hired to do the investigation in there trying to figure out what properly to do to make it available.
Even Absopure was a little concerned that there were people going in and out of the building.
There shouldn't have been people going in and out of the building. I just got a call from the boss there saying, when can he go back in the building today? So I'll check that again tomorrow.
I got 3 calls from businesses across the street, so somebody went back and forth.
All right.
Is the building going to have to be demolished? It looks like it.
Yeah.
I would believe that it would have to be, and it would be a better value to demolish that building and rebuild than to just repair that building.
There's also the issue of the oil pollution and staining of General Drive, which is still under construction. At some point, we're not going to pay for that cleanup. So either that's going to be the company or their insurance carrier, or Wayne County or somebody, but that we did not anticipate that kind of, doesn't look like there's any physical damage, but it certainly aesthetically and possibly from a safety standpoint, it does not look promising.
Yeah, we do withhold funds. The insurance company is supposed to mail us a certain percentage of the building cost that then we utilize. If the owner doesn't do proper restoration, then we're able to use those funds to do that or return it to them once we've signed off on all their repairs.
I have a question, not a question. Our engineer should evaluate the concrete to see if there's any damage, because then we would have a liability claim.
Yeah, they will be doing that.
Some of that concrete might not have been fully cured. With
Right.
load on it and high temp.
Yeah, OHM are the engineers working on that one, George Sackhoff. So I don't know if they've been out there yet, but they're very aware of what's going on.
Good catch, Chuck.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move we approve the consent agenda for September 8th.
Motion is made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by clerk Forba. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item E, public comment, limited to 3 minutes. This is not your only opportunity during the evening. There will be another chance towards the end of the meeting. We do ask that you limit it to 3 minutes. There will also be opportunities to discuss other items as they come up in the regular agenda, as long as they are germane to that issue. So anybody you want? Come on up. Just state your name for the record. You can if you'd like, yeah.
Is that good? Okay. Hi, my name is Billy Wright. I live at 9061 Hackberry, and I've been a resident of the township for about 5 years. I'd like to bring attention to and give my opinion on one of the key points of the introduction to the draft budget in today's agenda. The key point was that it included no defunding or reimagining of police, fire, dispatch services. I would also like to mention the comment in the July 28th meeting in the introduction to Resolution 2020-07-2874 regarding restoring the police budget, that we will never defund or underfund the police. In all times, it is necessary to use our imagination. In June, hundreds of people, including citizens of Plymouth Township, came to the city of Plymouth to hold a peaceful rally that remained peaceful in support of Black Lives Matter movement and to protest the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others, as well as to protest the nationwide problem of police brutality. The police in Plymouth Township didn't kill George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, and I have no problem with the police in Plymouth Township, nor do I think most people do. But we're all part of a system and a culture that killed them. We are all in this together. In July, 2 members of the Plymouth Canton PFLAG spoke to the board about increasing transparency, reducing bias, and improving the de-escalation skills of the officers that serve our community. These aren't requests to defund the police or to abolish policing in our community, but they are requests to the board and to the police to use their imagination. I don't know those members of the Plymouth Canton PFLAG, but I'm glad they stood up in July to make their comments. It's important that the board understands that to many of us in the township, a commitment to the status quo regarding public safety is insufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All righty, hearing none, we're going to move on to item F2. This will be the repeal of the DWSD rules and adoption by reference of the Great Lakes Water Authority Industrial Pretreatment Program rules. As you may recall, we did a resolution probably about a month and a half ago expressing our support for the resolution, the rule changes. We debated whether or not we had to make any substantive changes to those rules, and it was determined by Attorney Kevin Bennett that would be necessary. So why don't you take it from here?
Okay, by way of background, the Great Lakes Water Authority, or GILWA, has assumed the rights and obligations under the township's contract with the Detroit Water and Sewer Department. GILWA has promulgated industrial pretreatment program rules and regulations to enable GILWA to comply with all applicable state and federal laws. As you mentioned, on July 28th, the board approved a resolution adopting GILWA's IPP rules for purposes of certain areas within the township. That would be the areas that are served by the Detroit Water and that were served by the Detroit Water and Sewer Department. The reason we need to do this ordinance amendment is because a resolution cannot supersede an ordinance. An ordinance can only be superseded by, quote, act of equal dignity, which would be another ordinance. Currently, Article 3, Section 2 of the Township's Water and Sewer Ordinance contains the rules and regulations that were promulgated by the Detroit Water and Sewer Department. Those appear to be no longer current. So what the township needs to do is to repeal those rules because they are in the form of an ordinance, and then adopt by reference the Gilwa IPP rules, and the township can't do that by reference without restating all of that. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So this is a first and second reading type situation?
Yes.
When do we have to publish this? Or do we-
After the second reading.
So what exactly do we have to publish, 96 pages?
No, they're being adopted by reference. If
Okay.
they're on file with the clerk's office, that's sufficient.
Okay.
Kevin, now that we're off of Wayne County's sewer system, I don't understand why this is relevant anymore. I know we pay IPP charges to Watua for the sewage, but why is this relevant with GLWA?
Gilwa assumed the rights and obligations of the Detroit Water and Sewer Department. The township's current ordinance has the Detroit Water and Sewer Department rules within the ordinance itself. Because the township's resolution to adopt the Gilwa IPP rules is only a resolution and not an ordinance, that would be insufficient on its face to replace the DWSD rules. So what this ordinance does is it repeals the DWSD rules and adopts by reference the Gilwa rules that the township already resolved to adopt. This would just be by way of ordinance.
Okay, are we subject to the rules now that we're not using the service anymore?
Well, remember we have the swap zone, so some of our sewer is going to Detroit still. And we approved a bill 2 weeks ago for $5,000 for industrial pretreatment to Great Lakes. And I had asked the question then, and they said it's because the swap zone. So I think we are affected because some of our sewer in the swap zone is going to Detroit.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's also just a good housekeeping measure since DWSD just doesn't exist anymore. But
Well, they exist, but only for purposes of the city of Detroit.
yes, and only for, yeah, the water production side, but
Right.
it's a long story. Okay. Okay, then, any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman?
I move that the board adopt Resolution 2020-09-08-84. This will constitute the first reading of the ordinance to amend the water and sewer ordinance.
Motion's made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Dorshevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Dipsy.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Kevin, just as an aside, at our next board meeting, then we'll have to do the second reading.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, item F3 is the sign regulations text amendments for technology and research industrial zoned areas. Laura Hawk cannot be with us tonight, so we have Natalie Bond from McKenna Associates and Kevin Bennett. Who would like to start us off? Natalie?
Yeah, I can start us off. Thanks, Kurt.
I just know we can hear you or not, so just, I don't know. You can take the mask off for a public address. It's okay.
Got it, yeah. I think the microphone should be fine.
I do.
All right, thanks. So this amendment came about due to a couple requests that we had from business owners in the community wanting to incorporate other materials than brick masonry in their monument signs. We also anticipate that with the development of the MITC corridor, we'll probably have some similar requests made just because using a non-masonry base on the signage it's a little more modern. We're seeing it in a lot more communities. And then essentially, this would put language in the ordinance that would allow these applicants to just go through the planning commission for this approval versus going through the zoning board of appeals to get, a public hearing. And then we have to send out notices to all the property owners within 300 feet. So it's kind of a lengthy process. So for the process, we've already gone through the planning commission, and they've reviewed the language, and they had no changes. We did a public hearing, and now we're doing recommendation to the board for approval. So we're requesting board approval of the attached amendments for Articles 18 and 19. And then if you have any questions, let myself or Kevin know.
So this is a text amendment, so it only requires the one reading tonight, because in essence, the Planning Commission has already done the first reading, so this is like the second reading.
Exactly.
Okay. And I don't think this has been updated since 1990s, 80s.
Probably
It goes
not,
back
no.
quite a way, so it's kind of we've been kind of promoting an 80s architecture, which,
Yeah, it's a little
I think
outdated.
Brembo might have been the one that came to the,
Yeah, you got
I think Brembo might have been the one that came to the ZBA a few years ago, and it was a corporate branding issue.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll be seeing, more often than it is time to update it, I think.
okay.
Not here.
Well, in the
we
last
can-
3 months in the zoning board, we've had 2 of these that have come to the zoning board, and it's very hard to argue with somebody who's putting up a beautiful brand-new building to say you have to have some
Yeah.
crappy base, so.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions from
Yeah,
anybody?
since we're on this subject, you're in the process of updating the master plan and this ordinance, I think.
So we're in the process of updating the master plan. We're not doing a zoning ordinance update per se. We're just, we're listening to the community, and when we get multiple requests for something that's different than what we have in the ordinance, we realize that there's a need for that in the community, and there's something that our zoning ordinance is missing. So we're basically just trying to correct that
Okay,
with
so
the
then-
zoning ordinance.
Please take back these 2 things. A very simple one is the article numbers is in Roman numerals. Most people today are not trained in reading Roman numerals. Change it to Arabic numbers to be consistent throughout. That's one suggestion. Second is, since we're on masonry, we should be looking at removing the requirement for 40% masonry on residential homes. Since the style has changed, just like you're saying now, Bob, you probably see it, but many people don't necessarily want a brick home anymore. They want siding to make it look more traditional or something like that. So it's a similar taste change from 40 years ago.
Got it. Thank you. We can look into that.
Okay. Anybody else on item 3? Anybody in the audience? All righty, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Heitman.
I move to adopt Resolution 2020-09-08-85, authorizing approval of the text amendments to the Charter Township of Plymouth zoning ordinance number 99 by amending Article 18, TAR Technical and Research District, and Article 19, Industrial District Signage Standards, as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Motion's made by trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Dempsey. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Trustee Heitman?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Clinton?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey?
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item F4 is demolition ordinance amendments, first reading. Trustee Dempsey has taken the lead on this and has provided us with a very thorough, legal, scholarly cover memo. I don't know if you would like to possibly add to that, or Kevin Bennett would. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Kevin Bennett.
About 15 years ago, the state decided to adopt the State Construction Code Act. That act made the building rules and regulations uniform throughout the state. At the time, the state gave municipalities the option of enforcing the state construction code and keeping the fines and costs from such enforcement, but the rules or the codes themselves could not be changed. So it's uniform throughout the whole state. One anomaly of the State Construction Code Act is that only knowing violations of the code are punishable as misdemeanors. Section 23 of the State Construction Code Act provides that only knowing violations of the act are punishable as crimes. This leaves a little loophole. If a person wants to demolish a building within the township, it is a requirement under the code that that person first obtain a permit. If a person unknowingly demolishes a building without realizing that a permit was required, the township could not prosecute that person because it would not be a knowing violation. What this ordinance does is it creates violations that are not intentional to be punished as civil infractions, municipal civil infractions. There's some benefits to municipal civil infractions over misdemeanors. First of all, judges in this community are very unlikely to impose jail time to somebody who violates the state construction code. Notwithstanding that, the burden of proof for a violation when the offense is a misdemeanor is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest burden under the law. Municipal civil infraction is not a jailable offense. It's only punishable by fine. And the burden of proof for that is preponderance of the evidence, which is considerably easier to show. Also, under the Revised Judicature Act, there is no cap on the fines for a violation of a municipal civil infraction. So the Township Board has wide discretion on how to punish people who demolish buildings without getting a permit. This ordinance would make violation a non-knowing violation of obtaining a permit prior to demolishing a building, a municipal civil infraction. And I believe it would be punishable by a somewhat substantial fine. The fines would also be cumulative, so if a person commits the same offense again, it would be an enhanced fine. I'm ready to take any questions or comments from the board on this.
Page 158, middle of the page. Well, top third. Says, each day that a violation is committed or permitted to exist or continue shall constitute a separate offense. So the person could potentially end up with a $10,000 fine before they really realize they had a problem. I recommend taking this out.
Sorry, where is this, Chuck?
Page 158, about where there's an A, B, C, and then there's a sentence just hanging out there at the end that says each day that.
That would be a discretionary consideration for the board.
This is overly punitive.
I want to just speak to that. I don't object to taking it out, but this is also intended really to remedy a situation where there is a knowing violation, but it's so difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these remedies would kick in. So for the let's say, scofflaw developer who knows what they should do but don't do it, this was intended as a punitive provision. But this is a first attempt at trying to plug the loophole, so I think it's reasonable to be a little bit conservative and not go overboard. But that was the intent, to really address the situation where you have somebody who does know what they're supposed to do and don't. So if we want to take that out, I have no objection to amending that.
That would be good. I have a couple of other comments. We've had 2 of these incidents in the last 2 years, approximately. So it doesn't happen too often.
Well, two that we know of.
Yeah. Okay, well, tearing down houses is becoming a trend, so it will probably grow.
Right.
One other question is, this only affects violations. So for example, if somebody doesn't get a permit for a water heater, this will not be affecting them, even though on the first page it looks, or where did I see it? Somewhere in here it looks like it could affect all permits, but maybe I didn't read that correctly. In other words, if you don't get a permit for putting a new electrical box in, this doesn't affect any of that?
No, that was not the intent.
But
Mr. Bennett
the
can
words,
verify
I don't know,
that.
do the words spread to that? The second from the bottom paragraph on the first page.
Is that-
Very first page, 152.
Oh.
If you look at 152, second to the last paragraph,
Which,
right there.
yeah, but which sentence?
The building code refers, in 1972, for the ability to impose sanctions, which in turn refers to the township fee schedule, which doesn't contain. Therefore, currently the township has no authority to actually charge a penalty or fee in this situation.
That's,
It's just this situation.
yeah, just this demolition situation, not
Okay.
any work. You're right. That's sloppy drafting. Shame on you, Mr. Bennett, for not correcting me.
Thank you.
And then, what is your, this is more of an opinion, whenever you pass an ordinance, or I always think of how it affects private property rights. What is your feeling on this? I own my own building, I want to tear it down. Tell me about, let's have a little discussion about private property rights, which is, kind of a constitutional, not kind of, it's a constitutional thing. What do you think?
Unfortunately, without thinking about others when you do that, thinking about police, fire, potential other hazards, you really can't do it in a vacuum. That's how I look at it. And, I'm sorry, but you have to get other people involved.
What, to tear down my piece of property?
Absolutely.
Why does it
doesn't
involve
give
the police?
This doesn't give the building department discretion over whether you may tear it down. It just
No.
says you have to get a
Okay.
permit.
Just get a permit, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. How much does a permit cost to tear down the building?
Is it in the fee schedule?
It's not. So what, well, apparently it's not. It says in here it's not in the fee schedule. I don't know what the cost is.
I would be surprised if it's not somewhere in the fee schedule. I mean, we've been issuing
Yeah, we've done it before.
lots of demolition permits in certain areas of town, so, yeah. I'm sure Sherry Parmelchuk would know that answer immediately. So here's my question, concern. Rather than separate single-family or two-family dwellings with other property types, could we just remove item B and just make it all types of property would just be covered under A and let it go?
So under A, what page?
So
are we at?
basically, we would merge on page 158. We could merge item A and B, and then A would just cover everything, 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000.
So it'd be lower fee rates than B.
Yeah,
Well,
and then
not
B would
fee,
just go away.
Fines.
Yeah, I would too, so I'm
No.
not sure what would be the rationale.
I don't, so other property types could be, I mean, a single-family dwelling in this town can be pretty big. And other property types could be a barn, a greenhouse. I mean, what's an other property type? We're going to know it when we see it? I think it's vague.
Oh, so you're referring more to other types, other residential property types?
Outside of residential. I mean, we all know what a one-family or two-family dwelling is, but other property types is pretty extensive and could be the value, the size of that property type could be insignificant compared to a single-family home in Plymouth Township, Michigan.
I could. The intent was for a commercial industrial property type, so we could say that. We could say for commercial or industrial property types, because that's the intent is, obviously there's a bigger investment. There's more of an affordability to pay the fines.
What if I want to tear down, what if I want to tear down a garage? And I don't know the rules, I screw up. Is that a shed? Is that another property? Is that another property type?
Well, maybe dwelling should be changed then.
So,
I don't think a shed would apply to this ordinance.
what about a garage? What about a freestanding garage or a pole barn? I mean, I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just throwing it out there. Other property types is pretty vast.
Maybe we just specify in paragraph A, you're talking about residential properties, and in paragraph
Yeah.
B, you're talking about commercial and industrial.
That's a good solution. I like that.
Okay,
So a permit will be required for a garage and a shed?
I don't know if that's required right now. It may depend on, I'm kind of looking at our planning and zoning guys. Oh, have you come across anything? I don't know. I mean, and then it depends on, is the structure, how many square feet, how old is it, what's its use type? I mean, I can cite examples of large, modern pole barns in the township. If I wanted to tear it down, do I have to get a permit? Did I need a permit to build it? Maybe I didn't build it.
Yeah, but I think you do need a permit. That's part of the issue here is you need so many approvals to do something
Yeah.
affirmatively, and then if you want to unravel that, you can basically do it and get away with it. So that's really the intent.
If you don't get a permit for any other certain type of thing, what do we do in that case? I know some places you either pay double or 3 times the permit.
You have to you buy a permit. That's what, you're forced to buy a permit. I don't think there's any punishment.
Right.
So what is the purpose of getting a permit to demolish a building? What is the government's interest? Well, usually you have to get the gas disconnected and the electrical disconnected, or any contractor's not going to touch it.
Well, you would expect that to happen, but it doesn't always happen, believe it or not.
Well, the permit doesn't tell you you have to get the utilities disconnected.
No, but I mean...
You just pay your money is all it is, and we have a log that there's something going on.
But that's what I want to understand, is what is the government's true interest in that instance?
In requiring a
Chief, you
permit?
wanna-
A permit for demolishing.
Public safety, health, utilities?
Yeah, the typical building demolition, I believe there's a $1,500 performance bond that they have to pay in addition to their application fee. And with that, you want to make sure the site is safe. For instance, in my realm, when a building burns down, the homeowner then has to go and fill in the pit or the basement to make sure it's safe and kids aren't playing with it. Because in the past, people have knocked buildings down in this community and just left, the construction debris on site that now grows weeds around it. Rats get in there, rats infest the neighborhood. So these are all the things that when a demolition permit is obtained, we make sure all of these different things are done. We make sure that the utilities are shut off properly. We make sure that the construction debris is hauled away. And if it's not, we use the performance bond to do the work ourselves.
But aren't there other ordinances that we have that talk about property being in disrepair and the weeds growing up? And I mean, there's other ordinance violations that could come into play. Wouldn't it be better if we just say you're going to have to pay a performance bond or forfeit your performance bond or something. I mean, $25,000, that's a lot of money. I'm just worried about it being so, I'm worried about being so punitive that it just not seem right, I guess.
Well, that would only be punitive for a repeat violator. And we're talking about a commercial or industrial property. So,
Well, let's say I'm ABC Builder, and I go and I demolish this building, and I pay a $1,000 fine. Tomorrow I change my company to CBA Building Company. I'm a completely different entity. What do you do then?
Mr. Bennett would take care of that.
Technically, that would be a different entity, so it wouldn't be a cumulative fine.
And frequently, entities that are in the construction business change their company sometimes with each project.
That's correct.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right. What I'm hearing right now would be item B would, in place of for all other property types, the language would be for industrial and commercial properties. Okay, that's how that would read. And then the highlighted portion, each day that a violation is committed, etc., would be struck. Is that acceptable?
And then A, as we discussed, A would focus on residential properties. B would focus on commercial and industrial
Right,
properties.
yeah.
So just for residential dwellings.
Properties.
That way.
Residential
So residential
properties.
dwellings, okay.
It's not a
It would
dwelling.
be. It would be. It's a property.
Then what he said is properties
Yeah, we're taking out
or
dwellings.
buildings.
We're saying residential properties, and then for all other, for commercial and industrial properties.
Residentially zoned
residential zone
properties? Okay. That's better. So A would be for residentially zoned properties, et cetera, and then for all industrial, commercial zoned? Is that too restrictive? I would just like to keep it as for all industrial and commercial properties. I hope somebody's
That's
writing
good.
this down. I'm trying.
I believe Alice is.
You got all this, Alice? Yes. Properties, yeah.
See,
We'll
she knew
clean
it.
it all up for second reading, so.
She had it. And then we delete the each day sentence.
Yes. Okay, any other comments or questions by the board? Anyone in the public? Then I would need a motion on this. Right now, we don't have an ordinance number, but that would appear in the second reading. We just didn't have anything to go by in terms of an amendment to an ordinance that doesn't exist yet. Well, that hasn't been adopted.
So I could just
Mr.
say,
Dempsey, would you like to attempt to make the motion on this?
I think I could just say, I move that the board adopt resolution 2020-09-08-86.
Oh, indeed. You could do that. Is that acceptable, Mr. Bennett? Okay. Any other changes, comments, questions to the motion? Then I would need a second. Second by Trustee Heitman. So the motion has been made by Trustee Dempsey, seconded by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll when you're ready.
Treasurer Clinton,
Yes.
Trustee Kermy,
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz,
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Dempsey,
Yes.
Trustee Heitman, Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Item F5 is Police Department purchase of body-worn camera systems. Chief Tidrington and Lieutenant Kudra, you're going to come
Yes.
forward both on this one?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. You're going to come forward, or you want to stay there?
It's fine.
There's
here,
no graphics or anything?
No.
Okay.
No graphics.
No demonstrations or anything?
No. If the board recalls, last November, December, during the budget session, we talked about body-worn cameras. It's something that the police department, we've looked at for the last several years. we didn't really want to invest in body cameras until perhaps other departments perfected and figured out all the pitfalls and problems. So we're at the point now where we want to move forward with the purchase. This has already been approved in the forfeiture budget, so it's no cost to the township residents or out of our general fund. It'll be purchased out of forfeiture. And there's several purposes for equipping our officers with cameras. It's not really that much different than what we're already doing. For at least the last 15 or 20 years, we've had vehicle cameras, in-car cameras, and our officers were equipped with microphones. The technology now has allowed us to take it to the next step. We feel that most of the problems have been worked out. Really, the purpose of the cameras, they serve several different purposes, but certainly one of the things it does is identify training needs. Our supervisors can review the camera footage and identify any critical training needs that might occur. It also identifies perhaps misconduct on the part of our police officers where we can take immediate corrective action when necessary. Very importantly, it also protects our officers against false allegations of misconduct. We have very few complaints here in Plymouth Township against our officers, and each complaint that we do receive, we do a comprehensive investigation. One came to mind just recently. We've only had 3 complaints, just to kind of put it in perspective, 3 complaints this year for the entire year. And we had a lady came in and made a complaint against one of our officers, and we quickly reviewed what occurred out there, and it was nothing like she described. We invited her to come in and view the video with us, frame by frame, so she could show us when the officer allegedly made these comments or did these things, and she refused to come in. She didn't want to watch the video, and obviously the complaint was unfounded. Lastly, the other thing that studies have shown is that oftentimes, and perhaps if you're watching the news lately, it doesn't show this, but citizens often change their behavior when they know that they're being recorded by police officers as well. So there's a lot of benefits of moving forward with the body-worn camera program. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Lieutenant Kudra, who will answer all the specifics as far as the purchase and so on.
How are the batteries now?
So Canton Township uses these same body cameras that I'm recommending that we purchase here. And they tell us at the company that the batteries last 8 to 12 hours depending on your call volume, meaning how often the camera's running throughout the course of your 12-hour shift. We run 12-hour shifts here.
A little closer to your mouth, Lieutenant. A little closer to your mouth.
Our call volume is a little bit lower than what Canton's is. I anticipate that we would be able to get our entire 12-hour shift in one charge. Per the lieutenant over there at Canton, who runs their road patrol division, they get usually 8 to 10 hours over there. So, and then the batteries are built into the camera. They're rechargeable, and usually they said they get about 3 years out of these systems. So I do have a 3-year warranty in this quote that will cover us for that duration of the expected life of the batteries of these.
What about storage of data after a shift? How long is that stored? Where is it stored? Are we purchasing software or hardware to do that?
As far as our overall video system that we have here, this is one piece of the puzzle. If you'll recall, a couple years ago, we bought new in-car camera systems. Those systems are from this same company. They work interchangeably with these body cameras. The data is downloaded at the station and it goes onto a server that we have in-house here. That server was purchased in 2017 in anticipation of these upgrades, the HD in-car videos and also the body cameras. At the time in 2017, we purchased the biggest server that we could get. It's a 17 terabyte server. As far as the retention schedule, that is customizable, and right now we have it set that general videos, so a traffic stop that does not result in a citation, a video that is labeled other, which means it doesn't really fit into any other category, that's retained for 30 days. Citations are retained for 60 days. Arrests and searches are retained for 90 days. And then we do have the ability to go in and tag videos. And if we tag a video, that video then is retained for 2 years. Those tagged videos, once that 2-year time period comes up, our record staff actually gets a notification of that, and then they archive those on CDs, and so we have those videos on CDs as well.
Okay. So just to follow up, the retention schedule, is that a function of the limits on the storage, or is it just a policy? Could we extend it?
We could extend it. We're not close to being tapped out as far as the storage on our server is concerned. Now, I'm not sure what effect the body cameras will have on that. We'll have to kind of see when we get those, because obviously everybody on a scene would be wearing a body camera. We would have in-car videos going as well as body cameras going. So there's the potential that we could be using more data, but it's kind of one of those things. We'll know it when we see it, when we start actually using these.
But either way, we're going to comply with the record retention laws and FOIA laws. So whatever, and we have the ability to download those and save those on the CDs as well. So we will be in full compliance with the record retention laws.
Yeah, it seems to me that all of the reasons why this purchase makes sense militates in favor of a longer retention schedule to make sure that that record exists, is not just wiped out or overridden or whatever.
Sure.
In a short period of time. And you mentioned FOIA. I was going to ask, these recordings are FOIA-able, are they not, Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
So this would provide citizens with the opportunity to use the Freedom of Information Act to obtain or access these videos, these body camera videos, correct?
In accordance with the FOIA laws, they'd be redacted if, privacy concerns and so on, but yes.
Do you have to be in the vicinity of the in-car camera in order for this to work?
No.
I mean, if you were wearing right now, would it work?
Yes, if I activated it.
And how then would it get downloaded into the system?
So there's a docking station that is installed at the station, and when the officers come in, they would place the camera in the docking station, and that would download the video from it.
Okay, all right.
If the officer did not turn the body cam on for some reason, I mean, do they have to do that?
Yes.
If they didn't, is that a
Policy violation?
Policy violation? Is that something that...
It would be, yes. However, the way that these cameras work, if you have a group of 3 officers and they are all, let's say they're all at a house or a building or a restaurant or whatever on a call, if one activates their body camera, all the body cameras in the vicinity will turn on.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So if he turns it on, she turns it on?
So if one officer activates one body camera, it is supposed to activate all the cameras in the vicinity.
And if one turns it off,
No, that's only for activating them.
Is that limited to Plymouth Township police officers, or if you have somebody from the city that has the same system, is that also activated?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I can
Are they
look
on a
into that
different
and
frequency or something like that?
I can inquire with Canton about that.
But in the case of the city of Plymouth, since they're on our dispatch, I would expect them to be on the same protocol.
I don't believe they have body cameras, and I don't know whether they are looking at that imminently or not, but
Don't know. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. An easy one.
Mark, are you all set?
I'll wait for Chuck,
Okay,
but I just
sorry.
had one
I'm
more.
sorry.
What country are they manufactured in? United States? Okay. Second, when it comes to FOIA, since it's potentially more expensive to reproduce a video, are you going to have to change the fee schedule to charge to reproduce the video?
I don't know
Because
the
you can't, if it costs you money, like if it costs you $10 for whatever the media is, you got to get your money back for that.
Yeah.
And you know that you're going to have a lot of attorneys requesting it.
And that will be a board decision at some point. We'll determine the extent of time it takes for our employees to produce this, and we'll come back to the board at the appropriate time with a fee schedule.
Anybody else, Mark?
I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but I couldn't help notice during the ceremony at the beginning when all the police officers were in the back. I mean, you yourself, you've got a gun, you've got a taser, you've got handcuffs, you've got a baton. I'm not sure what else is on the belt. You've got a two-way walkie-talkie. I mean, you're becoming like a robo-cop now.
It's all very heavy.
And now it's all very heavy. Now you're going to have a camera in the front. I'm not quite sure how you would attach that, but at what point are you losing your flexibility and ability to perform your job because you're loaded down with all this equipment?
You know, the answer to that question is you just get used to it. It's just one more item on your person. This will be nice in that it's not on your belt. The way that these are attached is they come with clips, and they either have what they refer to as an alligator clip, or they have a magnetic mount, which just goes up on your uniform, up around your shirt buttons. So it's not adding any weight to the belt, which is keeping it off of your waist and your hips. So that's beneficial, I think.
But to your point, some departments are going with these vests. They look like tactical vests because the officers, they just have so much equipment on them, and it does take the weight off of their hips and puts it on their shoulders. We have looked at that, and the majority of our officers do not want to switch to these vests at this point, but yeah, how much stuff can you load down on these officers? But if you think about it, everything's critical. We have non-lethal, you have radio, you have firearms. Everything that they carry is necessary in these day and times.
Any other questions? Any questions in the audience? Okay, then I'm entertaining a motion on this item.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr. Clerk.
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby approve Resolution 2020-09-08-87, authorizing the Plymouth Township Police Department to purchase 30 Safe Fleet Mobile Vision BWX-100 body-worn cameras out of the federal forfeiture funds, and to authorize the finance director to appropriate fund balance, amending the 2020 federal forfeiture fund capital outlay account in the amount of $35,300.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba, seconded by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. Item F6 is the in-car computers for police vehicles. Lieutenant Chief, you want to start us off?
Before I turn it over to Lieutenant Kuja for the details, again, this was approved by the board during the 2020 budget season, and at this point, we're going forward with ordering it, or would like to go forward with ordering the items. Lieutenant Kuja will explain in detail what we're purchasing.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. So these laptops are for our patrol cars. They are what we do all of our mobile data computing on. When our officers are dispatched on a call for service, that comes over a computer-aided dispatch system. These computers are what those dispatched runs come to. Also, this is how our officers run all of their lien work. Lien is the law enforcement information network. So when they need to run license plates, they need to run people to check for warrants and whatnot. There's various different CLEMIS applications. Their report writing systems are on these computers. Their ticket writing systems are on these computers. And the Dell Latitude 5424 rugged laptops, that particular laptop is what is recommended by Oakland County CLEMIS, which is who does all of that for us. We contract with them. That is what they recommend that we use. The computers that we are replacing, we have a fleet of 10 patrol cars. The computers that we are replacing are at end of life. They're no longer manufactured. We have already had 2 of the 10 that we have break down, for lack of a better term. There was an internal component, a battery of some type that failed on them, we were no longer able to get that component. It necessitated us buying these new laptops. That's why we already have 2 of these laptops in our fleet. The laptops that we currently have are out of warranty. These new ones come with a 5-year warranty. And, again, they're what is recommended to us by Clemis for purchase. It's a state bid item, so it's not, anything that we could shop around for or get comparable prices on. This is the state bid price. And beyond that, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Lieutenant, are these for the new vehicles or are this replacing existing?
So our
equipment?
current fleet of patrol cars is 10 patrol cars. That's the fully marked patrol cars that you see out there on the road. These replace 8 laptops in 8 of those cars. Again, 2 of the cars already have these laptops because the older ones broke and could not be repaired.
They switch out when we get new cars, they switch out.
Yeah, so when our 2 Explorers that the board approved us to purchase for 2020, those were built in the last week of August. When they get here, we will take the materials out, or the equipment out of the old patrol cars and swap it into the new ones. So these will be swapped car to car over the next several years.
Okay. Any other questions?
Dan, is that something we can do ourselves when we swap them out, or you got to send it away?
Yeah, we actually go right to Oakland County up in Pontiac and have them do it because they have to program them and set them all up.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Any questions in the audience? Hearing none, we will entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Heitman?
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby approve Resolution 2020-09-08-88, authorizing the Plymouth Township Police Department to purchase 8 Dell Latitude 5424 rugged laptop computers, 8 Havis laptop screen stiffeners, and 8 Havis laptop docking stations, and to authorize the Finance Director to appropriate additional fund balance, amending the 2020 General Fund Capital Equipment account in the amount of $5,200.
Motion is made by Trustee Heitman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorva. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Trustee Dipsy.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes.
Very good. Item F7.
Supervisor
is-
Heisey, if I could, I just want to thank the board for your continued support, and we certainly appreciate the funding when we bring equipment needs to this board, and it really makes it that much easier for us to do our jobs and also to serve this community safely. So we appreciate the funding on each one of these things that we bring forward.
Thank you. Item F7 is the loan transfer request for SAD projects. Treasurer Clinton.
Thank you. This is kind of a 2-part resolution. The first part is just the fact that we need money in the SAD fund to pay our bills. As you know, we've got the Litchfield project going on and the General Drive project going on. And we have been paying our contractors, and we will continue to pay our contractors as a completion basis. Also, the engineering firm that does the engineering work and the inspections and such. So we have to pay these bills up front, and then what will happen when the projects are completed, I will then bill the businesses and the residents who are impacted by these SADs. We will also collect $389,000 from Wayne County. But we have to pay the bills up front, and we just have a cash flow issue. The second part of this is that, we did this in the past. We borrowed money from the Water and Sewer Fund, and there's still an outstanding balance of that in the neighborhood of $1.6 million. These are the people that chose to pay over time, over a 10-year period, and put it on their tax bill. So eventually that money will get paid off roughly to the tune of $300,000 a year over the next 5 to 6 years. So anyway, my recommendation is that for the short term, we borrow money from the Water and Sewer Fund at an interest rate of 2%, and then I will repay all of the money that we collect from General Drive and from Wayne County and from Litchfield. I will repay that back as soon as we receive it. Likely that won't be enough because there will be people that opt to pay over 10 years, and then we'll just continue to pay that back to water and sewer as we collected at a 2% rate of interest. My recommendation is going back for the one that it currently exists, that we adjust that rate of interest from 4% down to 2% to better reflect what today's interest rates are.
I guess I'm not following entirely because those people that choose to spread the payments out over a period of time are going to be paying 4%, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So doesn't that mean that we borrow the money and pay it back at?
Well, we're paying ourselves back.
paying
The
ourselves back at
SAD
less.
fund is paying our water and sewer fund. It's left pocket into right pocket type of thing. Yep.
But that means 2 percentage points goes where? Where does the differential for the old ones?
The water and sewer fund used to get 4% interest of the outstanding balance per year on the old SADs. That will now get a 2% rate of interest.
But when you're going to lower the interest rate on the old SADs to 2?
Correct.
Oh, wait a minute.
So the SAD is repaying the water and sewer fund, currently at 4%. I'd like to change that to 2%.
Well-
As you recall, last year we did the same thing with the golf fund. We were borrowing internally at a 4% rate of interest, and we reduced that.
But that's
2%.
all, I'm a little concerned that it'll create a disincentive for people to pay off. If the interest rate is too low,
No, they're still going to pay 4%.
they are going to pay the 4.
Which
Yeah.
internally we will
ourselves.
repay our internal loan
Yeah.
at a 2% rate of interest instead of 4%.
Right.
Okay, so which account does the interest payment go into? SAD? The 4% that the outstand, it's going to the SAD account, but then eventually, how do we get that money out once the SADs are closed? Because there's some excess interest there.
Here's what happens. Let's say, so in December, I'll just kind of give you the example. In December, the people that chose to finance over 10 years, on their tax bill, they will get a line item that says, Country Club Village, $500 SAD. So when they pay their taxes, $500 from their tax bill goes into the SAD fund. Then I will take that $500 and transfer it to the water and sewer fund to repay what we borrowed from the water and sewer fund.
So the water and sewer fund will get the interest that the resident paid, will go into the water and sewer.
No.
It's not in the $500.
The SAD fund will get the 4%.
Okay.
The water and sewer fund will get the 2%.
All right.
Okay.
So one thing I'd like to encourage you is, can we work hard to get the jobs done at Litchfield and General Drive so we can invoice on November 1 or something like that?
Yeah, I was told by Patrick today that we should be in a position to be able to invoice in the middle of October. For these.
Fantastic, because
Yeah.
then it becomes a cash flow.
both done.
It might mitigate it somewhat.
Yeah.
Because somebody may pay off before the end of the year or.
Yeah, no, Jerry said he would go and pour cement himself to get it done, so.
Did you know that?
So if they get that invoice, they have how many days to pay before it goes on the December tax bill, or you can't make it to Litchfield would never make it to the December tax bill?
Well, that's why I want to get it done by the end of October, or I'm sorry, in the middle of October. I want to send those bills out, so that would give them basically a month and a half. And the way I did the SAD bills in the past, I basically said, here is your invoice. If you do not pay it by this date, which is roughly around Thanksgiving, I will assume then that you want to go on the 10-year payment plan. So if they did not pay me, it automatically goes on the tax bill for that following year.
Now, interest rates, because of that complex thing we have with the prime rate and whatever,
Yeah,
interest rates have been going way down.
These two, both Litchfield and General Drive, were grandfathered in at the 4% because we had already told them during the SAD
All right.
process that they would be charged 4% for 10 years.
Oh, it's only the new ones are affected
Yeah,
by
all the new ones
prime
going-
plus 2 or something like that.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions?
Perfect.
No? All righty then, I will entertain a motion on this. Mark, would you
All
like
right,
to do that?
I move to approve Resolution 2020-09-08-89, which will provide for the advance of funds from the Water and Sewer Fund to the SAD Fund in an amount not to exceed $2.5 million, at an interest rate of 2% per annum on the unpaid balance. The resolution will also adjust the rate of interest on the original 2013 cash advance from 4% to 2% on any outstanding balance retroactive to January 1st, 2020.
Motion's made by Treasurer Clinton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Trustee Dempsey.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the official rollout of the 2021-2022 budget. Bob, if you can go to that page. With us tonight is our Finance Director, Ginger Moriarty. State law requires that a supervisor present a draft general fund budget to the Board of Trustees on and before September 1st. You received that document on August 28th. Tonight's meeting, we just want to briefly outline the highlights of the draft two-year budget. This is the first time we've actually had a real two-year budget, and we want to thank Ginger for assisting us in getting, actually, she didn't assist, she did it. She's just fabulous, and
Good job.
she's done a wonderful job in preparing all of these documents, especially since Ginger has come in basically mid-year, had to deal with a budget that she didn't create, had to do the audit, and dealt with COVID and all of the grant requests and other adjustments that we've had to make along the way. So thank you again, Ginger, for your help. Just the key points of the budget, Bob, if you could just scroll up a little bit more. It's a balanced $17.4 million budget. This is approximately $257,000. Now remember, this is a draft budget, so don't hold us to these numbers. $257,800 less than last year's amended budget. We're forecasting revenues of $17.7 million, including grants, $323,000 to the fund balance, $250,000 invested into OPEB, $2.5 million for future pension OPEB liabilities, and no change in our funding for police, fire, or dispatch services. Below is a tentative agenda. This is a fairly fast track compared to how we've done this in the past. Usually, we would do at least one, maybe two study sessions. So this is now the fifth budget that the seven of us have been accustomed to. So I would hope that with Ginger's guidance and hopefully some easier overall agendas in the coming weeks, that we can get this done during our normal meeting schedule. So with that in mind, September 22nd would be budget deliberations on public safety, so police, fire, and dispatch. October 13th would be budget deliberations for general government, so that's building, IT, clerk, us, the supervisor, planning, building, everybody else. And then October 27th would be budget deliberations for water and sewer, DPW, and it would also be the night of our state-mandated public hearing on the overall budget. Now, one of the things that Ginger wants us to do, and we are going to do it, is she would like to have all of our budgets, water, sewer, some of the minor budgets like senior transit, solid waste. Pardon me?
The component units.
Yes, all of those other minor budgets, and then of course a big budget, which is water and sewer, that she would like to have us do all of these at one time so that they're all on the same schedule and that we're not coming back later in the year, for example, to do water and sewer or solid waste. And then the goal would be November 10th would be final approval. That will be our one and only lame duck session, and I think it would just be the right thing to do. The fair thing to do is to have the two outgoing, who knows, we may all be outgoing but at that point, but at least have the two outgoing trustees, the two guaranteed outgoing trustees sign off on this budget and not have to send it over to somebody else. That's never a fun thing to do. So that's the schedule. If we were going to amend that schedule in any way, I would have to recommend that we would have to do a study session that would have to be announced at a later date. So hopefully that will not be necessary. And I will do my best to try to keep us with fairly light agendas other than the items before you. So Ginger, if you'd like to expand on this item, feel free at this time.
You did such a good job introducing for me.
Oh, thank you. It's the Mutual Admiration Society here. You're going to have to speak into the mic pretty closely because I don't know how well it's working tonight.
Call it off.
Well,
Can you hear me?
yeah. Can you give
Like
her
a
a
Verizon commercial.
Can you give her a handheld?
Can you hear me better with this?
Much better. Yeah.
Okay. So first I would like to thank the administration and the department heads. They did a wonderful job helping me put this together this year. Everybody was very cooperative. So what we'd like to do is introduce to you tonight the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget and a fiscal year 2022 forecasted budget. So what you have before you is a presented balanced budget with financing sources or revenue exceeding the financing uses or expenditures in the amount of $323,000. The fiscal year 2021 budget or revenues are $17.7 million, while the proposed 2021 budgeted expenditures are $17.4 million. The fiscal year 2020 adopted budget revenues were $17.7 million, and the 2020 adopted budget expenditures were $17.5 million. The 21 proposed budget expenditures are $179,000 less than the fiscal year 2020's adopted budget. The fiscal year 2020 amended expenditure budget, as of the date of the report, was $17.6 million. The 2021 proposed budget expenditures are $257,000 less than the current 2020 amended budget. The 2021 proposed budget before you has a total capital outlay expenditure budget of $662,000, which includes a number of capital expenditures that we delayed or canceled from our budget in May for fiscal year 21. The proposed budget before you also includes our third one-time OPEB contribution out of 6 years and will increase our total restricted invested balance for our future OPEB liabilities to $2.5 million.
Why did you come up with that number? Tell me how you derived it.
Our current investment year-to-date with interest is $2.3 million. The 2021 contribution is $250,000, which will bring the balance to 2.5. The first year for the one-time contribution began in 2019 in the amount of $1.2 million. The second one-time contribution, which was 2020, was for $1 million. The plan has earned interest based on its investment, has brought the total balance to 2.3, and this contribution will bring the balance from 2.3 to 2.5.
As you may recall, Chuck, when we put together our corrective action plan with the state of Michigan to get us to that the 40% funding level, that was the 5-year investment plan that we put in place, 1.2 million, 1 million, 250, 250, 250. And then as that grows over time, that will, by the year 2035, that will get us to the 40% funding level.
So the 2.5 million restricted.
It will go into the OPEB trust fund, which is the 737 fund.
That has been invested with.
But this year, we're not restricting 2.5 million for this year.
No.
That's overall.
That's the
right?
accumulative.
Okay, so that you may need to, then when we refer to this in the future, the 2.5 million appears here to be in this year's budget. So you need to somehow qualify that the second to last dot point.
Correct. It's for
misleading.
future pension OPEB liabilities. But as of fiscal year 21, with a contribution, it will increase the total investment that's restricted for future liabilities.
All right, I will also be pushing to increase the fund balance contribution to be greater than $323,000. It's not enough in these uncertain times. And the next question is, how did you get the assumption for state shared revenue being flat or slightly up?
So the state of Michigan provided us 1920 budget estimates for the state shared revenue, and the actuals for their budget has already been completed for fiscal year 1920. The state's budget begins October 1st. They have preliminary executive budgets proposed for state shared revenue. I'm currently waiting to determine what that will look like for our projections for fiscal year 2021, and maybe making some revisions to that budget by the time we get ready to adopt in November. Now, their budget is to be adopted by October 1st, so we'll wait to see if they actually approve the proposed, which will increase our constitutional revenue by about $165,000 if they honor the proposed budget that's before them today.
Okay, at the current, in other words, you take the 2019-2020 rate from the state for the constitutional state shared revenue. If you applied that, it was a $160,000 increase. Is that right?
The current budget is forecasted based on the current estimate provided by the state for state shared revenue. They are currently entertaining a revised or an executive budget that will increase our state shared revenue for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $165,000 should they adopt the budget proposal that's before them on October 1st.
So all of the talk about being short at the state is not true.
It is true as of today. There has been no amendment to the existing actual for their fiscal year 1920, and we have no revision to their 2021 estimate as of today. The budget today includes their estimate for fiscal year 2021. Their budget year begins October 1st and ends August 30th. 3 of the 2020-2021 payments that we received will be part of our 2020 revenue, and the other 3 payments will be part of our 2021.
So they're deferring it.
So their budget starts October 1st.
That's true, right.
So the first revenue sharing payment is in October.
Got it. No, I know.
That will affect our 2020 October.
Yeah.
Then the next payment will be in December. That will also impact our 2020 revenue.
What is the most that we might receive from the state under the CARES Act?
So we have an application currently before the state of Michigan for 2 grants. Their first one is the CARES Act, which is to provide a reimbursement of our public safety payroll for the months of April and May. The proposed request by the township currently before the state is $1.1 million. We also have a second grant application that has been made under the Hazard Pay Act. The Hazard Pay Act provides for $1,000 per public safety officer, and we've made an application for reimbursement of that hazard pay payroll in the amount of $66,000. We have also received year-to-date, with the help of Dan Phillips, our emergency manager, a COVID relief grant in the amount of $25,515, which we will be bringing before you with an amendment to the 2020 budget to recognize that revenue and appropriate it for the expenditures that the township has experienced as a result of the COVID expenditures, such as masks, sanitizer, and equipment that was necessary.
We've received it already?
We have received the first grant of $25,000, I believe, this last week, and we will be bringing it before the board with one budget amendment to recognize all of the revenue. We are expecting to receive information from the state of Michigan by September 18th on the CARES Act for the $1.1 million. The plan was to prepare or provide to governmental units within the state of Michigan $200 million. It's on a first-come, first-served basis. And they were supposed to be providing information today as to whether or not there would be a second round that would allow us to then make application for June and July's payroll. I have not yet heard what the decision was from the state of Michigan on the second round.
And this is in lieu of receiving state shared revenue?
This is for the
This is in addition?
Act. The CARES Act is part of the federal grant monies that went to the state to
Oh,
provide for COVID relief. It has nothing to do with state shared revenue.
If we get this, we may be able to cut our tax rate then.
I also have before you any other questions?
Yeah, I do actually. I'm having a really difficult time, trying to understand where one category ends and the next one begins.
By department?
Yeah, because there's 23 pages and they're GL codes. And so I'm not accustomed to really seeing it in this format.
Okay. So what I'll do for the next budget, then, when we bring before you the general government, is I'll have it page break by department for you.
Yeah.
So that way you can see what each department is. And I'll also have a presentation during the general government that kind of breaks that down
Okay,
so that
that'll
you can
work.
see that
Yeah,
as well.
thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about the capital budget. Did you say 662,000? Where is that in these sheets?
So within the budget, the 970 accounts for each department is your capital outlay account.
So if I added those together, I would get the 662?
It changed, yeah.
And will you be bringing detail on that to us?
So during the budget workshops, I'll be providing you budget worksheets with footnotes, and each footnote will describe each of the capital outlay requests made by the department. So it'll be pretty itemized for you.
Okay, so this is the kickoff tonight, so it's a very broad stroke questions. Any other questions from anybody on the board?
One thing, the long overdue minor repairs in the park, please work on getting them in the budget or doing something. They're very small. Painting, gutters, stuff like that. They've been on for a couple of years. We've taken them on and off.
Ginger, I think we had talked about that to some extent, maybe not in that great detail, but I think we have set money aside for regular maintenance and improvements to existing structures at the parks.
So we have one item that I'm sure is not in there is we have never connected the rain garden to the drain. So we'll have to tunnel under the sidewalk.
Actually, we're doing that on September 14th.
Oh, we are? All right,
Yes.
great.
Yeah, Friends of the Rouge is handling that because
They're going to actually physically do it themselves?
somebody's going to tunnel under the sidewalk,
Great.
the walkway.
So it won't cost us any money?
It
Other than
shouldn't.
materials, maybe?
It shouldn't, yeah. Why don't you shoot me an email and I'll give you more detail on that.
All right, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're scheduled to come out in a couple weeks. Okay, all set for now. This is just, kickoff night. Any questions from the audience? Cheryl, yes. Come on, you got to come up, though. We can't hear you. Yeah, parks would be under general government. Okay. Okay, all set? Then this does not require any action by the board other than I do request that the board formally move to receive and file these documents at tonight's meeting. So is there a motion just to receive and file?
I move to receive and file.
Motion's made by Trustee Kermy. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Heitman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Okay, very
So
good.
to save workload, we should hang on to these, right?
Yes.
These copies.
You'll be getting more stuff every week, but definitely hang on to that. Okay, very good. Public comment, again, limited to 3 minutes. Anybody? Okay, we're going to move on then to board comments. I just want to give an update for our next meeting, which will be September 22nd. The main focus of that meeting will be the budget discussions for police, fire, and dispatch. We may be entertaining a motion for a drain project that has been requested by Wayne County. We will also have an engineering request. This is for an SAD for West Briar 2 subdivision. The demo ordinance amendment, second reading. The GLWA IPP rules, second reading. And then Mark Clinton has the annual millage rate approval, which is required by law, is pretty pro forma. Hopefully that will be it so that we can focus mostly on the budget items. We talked about the fire that we had over the weekend. We have installed new mulch at the wooden play structure at McClumpha Park. And we are looking for a date possibly in late September, early October. And I'm at a point where I just might end up picking a Saturday and maybe have a rain day as a backup, but just pick a day where we may ask the citizenry to come out and assist us in sort of not major improvements, but at least fix some of the holes and gaps and maybe install some new swings and things like that. We've had a lot of interest from the neighbors around there and also from some of our service organizations.
Kurt, who's assigned to buy the raw materials? Who's our staff person?
Right now, it would probably be somebody in Parks, Eric Anderson, but that's detail work that we have not determined yet.
He's going to have to make a bill of materials and
Yeah.
purchase it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be sitting around there going, duh.
Well, I think we were trying to set up a meeting for this week with some of the guys from the Lions Club who apparently worked on this back in the 90s. That meeting fell through. So if and when a meeting like that ever happens on site, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I'll help.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So that's all I think I have at this point. Jerry?
I'm good.
Okay. Bob? Gary?
COVID numbers are up for Plymouth Township. I'm not too sure why. The chief has looked into it a couple occasions, but the last 2 out of the last 3 days, we've been really high, and today we're second in Wayne County to, well, obviously outside of Detroit, but second to Dearborn by only 1. So please wear your mask and be safe. That's all we say. Thank you.
Good advice. Yes. Jack? Okay. Chuck?
Nothing.
Mark Clinton?
All good.
Okay. Any questions for me on anything? Hearing none, then I need to entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
At 8:31 p.m., I move that the closed session be called for the purpose of discussing a written legal opinion rendered by the township attorney in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, Section 8H, Michigan Compiled Laws 15.268H.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Heitman. I believe we have to take a roll call on this.
Yes. Just 1 moment. Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Mark Clinton, Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yeah.
Clerk Borba, yes. Dempsey.
Yes.
Trustee Heitman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we will be going into closed session at this point. For those of you watching at home, the camera will be off. When we come back from closed session, nothing else will happen. We're going to adjourn, and that will be it. So thank you for watching. Have a